What's going on, guys? It's the Standing 8 Podcast, episode 7. Got a good weekend coming off of, man. Good boxing this weekend. Let's introduce our panel members, man. True, go ahead and introduce yourself.
True Boxing, TRU Boxing, and TRU_boxing at Instagram. First one was my YouTube channel. So
Got you, Yvonne.
All right, it's Von Blues Boxing, man, on YouTube. I might be coming with an Instagram page, but right now, Von Blues Boxing.
Stay tuned, guys, on that. Good weekend, guys. Good weekend. Short weekend, but we still got our awards to get into. So let's get it started off the bat on this recap of this weekend. True, you're going to handle the zone, I believe, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we had. I'm just going to talk about the two fights.
Yeah, go ahead, True.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to talk about the two fights. The main two fights that happened. The other ones were kind of, lower level. But, Vaughn, if there's any on the undercard you want to talk about before I get started, man, go ahead.
Anything on the other card that was a note? Did I see any young prospects? Because you know me and my prospects.
Right.
Damn, was it any? No,
there wasn't really a lot of guys that were worth, mentioning now. So, all right, I'm gonna get into the undercard fight. We had a 130-pound title fight in the co-main. It saw Rene Alvarado against drawing a blank, Roger Gutierrez in a rematch from 2017 when Alvarado stopped Roger Gutierrez in the 7th round. But going into the rematch, Gutierrez was coming off a nice win last year against Rocky Hernandez and a first-round knockout. And, man, I don't know what's up with that WBA title, but that thing has been slippery, and it seems like it's always in rematches that thing's changing hands. And, what's his name? Gutierrez just knocked Alvarado down a couple times in the 2nd round. And then they were going at it, but it looked like Alvarado had taken over the fight towards the middle rounds. And then late, and it ended up being the defining knockdown, Gutierrez knocked Alvarado down again in the 12th. And the reason why I say that was the defining thing was because on all three judges' scorecards, Gutierrez got a unanimous decision, 113 to 112, and that pretty much breaks down. That breaks down to where they gave Alvarado 7 rounds and they gave Gutierrez 5, but those 3 knockdowns, and especially that last one in the 12th, is what won that fight. It would have been scored a draw if that knockdown didn't happen.
Wow.
So so that was very significant right there. And those 3 knockdowns were significant, but what a firefight. I mean, Alvarado was punching, but you know what I like that Gutierrez did is he used his height. He used his height in his reach in this one, and that's what helped him land those shots. And that's what he got hit with some good shots too, but it helped him using his height and helped him avoid getting hurt badly. Because he did get hit with some good shots, but he weathered that. And, it was just all in all a great action fight, man. Great way to start the year. So,
do you see a trilogy going on in that fight, True?
Absolutely, man. I mean, the first fight went to Alvarado. This one, if you look at rounds, it went to Alvarado, but Gutierrez got the knockdowns that made it, it's very similar to Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury 1, whatever way you scored that fight, the judges had it a draw because those 2 knockdowns that Wilder scored. So, I say why not? Because these guys, they really don't have – Alvarado's a good fighter, but there's not a deep stable of 130-pounders for Golden Boy, and that's who Alvarado fights for. So, I mean, there's Joseph Diaz, but Diaz likely, after his mandatory defense of his title, is likely going to have to face Kevin Farmer in a rematch. So, why not Alvarado and Gutierrez 3? Alvarado didn't have to take this fight. So, so he gave Gutierrez another shot. Gutierrez should give him that in return. And it was also a special moment for Gutierrez because he actually lost his mom to cancer in November.
Wow.
In November. So that was, it's kind of one of those very feel good stories, man, because that was a big deal. And you saw the emotion on him after he won the fight. So, yeah.
Wow. Vaughn, what do you feel about that fight? Any noticeable things different that guys did to change the outcome of the fight, or?
What True said, Gutierrez just used his height and he tried to use his range and keep Rene Alvarado at the end of his punches, and it paid off throughout the fight. He was able to land some big shots. He got those 2 knockdowns that got him that 10-7 round. He got the 10-8 round. So it was a big win for Gutierrez. Like True said, it definitely needs to be a trilogy fight. The fight was very close, and they need to do it again.
Wow, so I seen that fight. Man, I liked it. It was guys slugging it out. Fight. It was A lot of back and forth, and like you said, and when I say back and forth, I mean not so much of the rounds, but some hard hits being exchanged, man. So it was a very good fight. It was very entertaining for me to watch that fight also. And that's the types of fights where it's funny. You don't see, in my opinion, you see those guys max it out with each other, but it doesn't mean that they're gonna have a really good career past those two, past that fight. You know what I mean? That's what I noticed. But it was a good fight in my opinion.
So. Yeah. Well. One thing I want to say is these guys need to start with this WBA title. They need to start avoiding rematches, man, because it seems like rematches are leading to knockouts with this title. And the reason I say that is Cancio upset Machado last year to win the title. Then in the rematch, everybody thought Machado was going to beat him because he was overlooking him the first time. Cancio beat him again. Well, then Cancio last November fought Alvarado in a rematch from a fight that Cancio won years earlier, and Alvarado upset him last year to take the title. Now Alvarado gives a guy an opportunity that he beat before, and Gutierrez upsets him. So that belt's, man, I don't know. These guys need to stay away from rematches, man. I don't know. they might want to not give guys from years before opportunities anymore, man, because it doesn't seem to be working out. So
yeah, so it was a good weekend. If you guys watched that, definitely you would have enjoyed it. Anybody out there, but so we're gonna start off with the second segment. Boxing Wars.
Well, we got the main event.
Sorry. I'm shit. First, right? My bad. Sorry. No sorry. Worries. Long weekend, man.
So the main event saw undefeated Ryan Garcia, really taking the major step up, taking on former two-time world title challenger Luke Campbell and veteran. And, this fight ended up really being great on a lot of levels. Ryan Garcia, we had to see how good he was, if he was worth the hype. And we wanted to see if Luke Campbell still had it at 33. And I think both those questions got answered. Ryan Garcia came out. He looked hot in the first round, was landing shots, looked flashy. And then the second round, he got caught cold, man, and put down hard by Luke Campbell. And, he weathered that, though. He was winning rounds. And in the seventh round, I think that was the perfect time to land a knockout blow, because that fight goes into the late rounds. I don't know. He was winning most of the rounds, but if it goes into the late rounds, I was going, I don't know. Campbell might be able to eat him up in the late rounds, man. If he starts to tire down, but he found a second gear, because I said going into that seventh round, I said after the sixth, I said, man, he's breathing hard. He's looking like he's getting a little tired. And then he landed one of the best body shots I've ever seen to end a fight on Campbell. And Campbell was just done. He couldn't get up. He couldn't feel his legs, and you could tell it was just one of those ones where he wanted to get up. He couldn't. And it was a liver shot, beautiful left hook to the liver. And Campbell went down hard. And now Garcia is the mandatory. He's the WBC interim champion. So, it was a big time win right there. Yeah, I mean, I like what I saw out of Garcia. I liked his resolve. I liked that he found a second gear. That was impressive. He proved he's a top 5 lightweight, beating a guy like Campbell. And Campbell proved to me that the guys can still, that he could face a young guy and still look sharp and look good, because he was landing some good shots. And I'm going to be honest with you. I said this in our group chat yesterday. If Garcia, he was backing up. He had just started to back up when Campbell landed that left hand in the second round. So he was going back, and he got hit with that hard shot. If he wasn't going back and Campbell would have landed that shot, that would have been lights out, bro. Because he got hurt bad with just that shot, period. If he wouldn't have been backing up, he would have been knocked out cold. So, and Campbell was getting his shots in. Campbell did not get his ass whipped in this fight. He really didn't. So, but last thing I wanted to say, the knockout was, it reminded me of when Hopkins knocked out De La Hoya. It really did. That it was the same kind of shot, and Campbell looked like, and he looked like he wanted to get up, just like De La Hoya. I remember De La Hoya on the mat.
He punched the mat.
Yeah, he punched the mat because he wanted to get up, but he couldn't. And and those shots ain't no joke, man. Those body shots are tough. That's why they say you beat the body and the head will fall too. I mean, I'm a big believer in that. So that was a pretty impressive performance right there.
Oh, wow. Bon, what do you feel about that fight?
It was a good fight, man. I mean, it was really, really a good fight. It was a nice test for Ryan Garcia. That's what Ryan Garcia needed. You know what I'm saying? Like any young fighter, he needed, a tough challenge. Maybe not the knockdown, because I never you know what I'm saying? Like, but I mean, it is the type of thing that you kind of got to go through in boxing at least once in your career. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
At least once, get rocked or knocked down, at least so you can respond to it. And Ryan responded really well. I mean, he was hurt too. It was one of them. It was a good shot. Luke set him up, because he knew Ryan was going to step back and just bam, caught Ryan with his hands down, and just it hit Ryan. But I got to give it to Ryan for him to recover that fast. That's what I was shocked about. Like the recovery, like I was like, damn, he recovered quick. I'm like, I thought he was, I was like, oh man, I was like,
so here's the question. Here's the question for both of you guys. Actually, Vaughn, you first. Do you think it was a smart decision for Campbell to lay off and still be strategic, or do you think he should have went at him?
Well, at that time, I don't know, because if you go at Ryan too hard, he can catch you with a counter shot. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I don't know on that one. True, what you think?
It's tough. I can't blame him for making the decision he made, because at that point in the fight, you kind of want to see what the guy has been doing up to that point. If the guy's been nothing but hard charging at you, then maybe you go after him, because if he gets his legs back, he's going to keep coming at you. But it was barely in the second round, bro. So I don't think Campbell had time to see the kind of rhythm of the fight that was going to go. So I think playing it safe, and not exposing himself was probably the smart thing to do. But it was just tough. It's tough to call, because he could have went. He could, but you know what? You could wear yourself out. I mean, I think it was into the third or fourth round, and he hurt Campbell at the end of the round. I think it was a fourth. And he came out. You could tell Campbell was still hurt, and Garcia came out and he tired himself out, Right. Campbell started to win the second half of the fifth, and that could have led to, bad things happening. If you wear yourself out with too much time left, man, that could be detrimental right there, man. That could be all bad, So I think Campbell played it the right way, and we just gotta see from here. I mean, Ryan Garcia is lined up to face Devin Haney now. Does either guy really want that fight right now? I mean, because it's a mandatory fight for a title. So if either guy backs out of it, even if they say, unless Ryan Garcia gets Tank Davis next, he should fight Devin Haney. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. And Devin Haney kind of is in a great position. He can face Garcia, and if Garcia doesn't want it, he could face he's going to face Fortuna. So he's in a good position with that title belt. But for me, if Ryan Garcia says Jorge Linares or anybody else, I'm going to call bullshit on it. I'm going to be honest with you. I like the kid. I'm going to call bullshit. You know why, bro? Because Devin Haney technically has a world title.
Yeah, that's true.
So if Garcia really wants to be a real world champion, then he's not going to win a world title with Jorge Linares. As much as I'd love to see that fight and love to see him knock him out, Devin Haney's where, right now there's more money. In my opinion, there's more money in a Devin Haney fight.
Yeah.
And there's a world title. And we'll see, but I'm going to call bullshit. You hear me right now. I like Ryan Garcia, but if he does not fight Devin Haney next or Tank Davis next, he's bitching out, in my opinion, and avoiding a tougher fight, in my opinion.
Let me ask you a question on that, though. Is it fair to say that he feels it's too soon to get a loss against those guys and he wants to build his career up before they fight? So let's say he loses to Haney or Davis. Is there still room for him to come back? And of course there's room for him to come back, but is there still room for him to still have that flair with a loss on his record?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's young, and here's the thing, right? If you're willing to take on a guy like Campbell or Linares, who are veterans, then you shouldn't be afraid of younger guys. That really, I mean, that's the thing right now is we're already, because of boxing politics in this weight class, we're already gonna not be able to see these top four young fighters, which are Teofimo Lopez, Tank Davis, Devin Haney, and Ryan Garcia. We're already not going to be able to see a lot of those matches because of the politics of boxing. But Ray, here's the thing about Haney and Ryan Garcia and the fact that it's a mandatory fight as well. They both fight on DAZN, bro. This is a very makeable fight right here.
Right.
And it's a mandatory world title fight. These are the only times that you see a lot of these. They call it crossing the street. This is one of the rare times where these guys almost have to fight each other in crossover networks because it's a mandatory title fight. So this one checks both those boxes.
Okay.
And if Ryan Garcia decides to go, nah, I don't want to face Devin Haney, I'm going to face Linares. To me, you know, you're not going after more money and you're not going after more prestige. And yeah, you could definitely bounce back from it. Both guys can, you know.
Right.
I mean,
Mhm.
if the fight's
All
makeable
young
now,
bulls can.
fight right now, man. I mean,
Right.
both guys are very good, you know, and you know, we're
Sure
gonna
ain't
see what
having
happens.
it.
But yeah, but no, I want to see it now, man. You know, if it's a mandatory fight, I want to see it now, and if it's a makeable fight. But on the flip side, real quick for Luke Campbell, you know, people are saying, is it time to retire? I cannot stand Chris Mannix on DAZN because he never looks at the wider picture.
Tell me
You know,
about it.
yeah, I can't stand that guy. But Campbell last year when he lost to Lomachenko, right? He said, I'm going to move up to 140. Campbell's a tall fighter. He's got great skill.
Mhm.
140 is probably where he should go now. I mean,
Uh-huh.
and he can make some noise there, in my opinion. He's got the skill, he's got the talent, he's got the experience. So he can make some noise at 140. That's a good division, but
And
I wouldn't be surprised at all if Campbell beat a lot of the guys in that division outside of Prograis, you know? I mean, so I mean, you know, so Campbell, I don't think this is the end of his career at all. You know, move up in weight, see what you can do. The only reason he even stayed at 135 is because he had more of a direct shot at a world title if he stayed.
Right.
So,
okay.
you know, so that's the only reason he stayed. So Campbell got nothing to hang his head about, man, losing to a young lion like Garcia. And he could definitely make some noise at 140, and I think he should do that.
Okay, so Vaughn, what do you think is a timeline for a Garcia Haney fight if it is going to go on? When do you think they'll schedule it?
Well, see, this is my thing. The biggest thing with Haney, reason why, because Ryan seems like he don't, you know what I'm saying? Because he said F Haney, I want Tank. And then yesterday he was kind of just like, but he just like, I don't know. What makes it hard for Ryan and Devin is just like, they so buddies. You know what I'm saying?
Right. They fought before, correct?
Huh?
They fought before in their
amateurs.
Yeah, amateurs. Okay.
Yeah, they fought in amateurs.
Okay.
But the thing is, it just seemed, I don't know. I mean, I think Devin wants it. I think he would fight Ryan, but I'm wondering about Oscar and Eddie. You know what I'm saying, True? That's what I'm worrying about. Are they? Go ahead, True. My bad. That's all.
It seems It seems like Ray. It seems like they don't know if they want to dip their toe into taking that risk on a loss yet. But you know, they also got to be realistic because Ryan Garcia could call out Tank Davis all day, but we're talking about one, Davis has to want that fight. That's one. He has to want the fight, and two, that's Mayweather Promotions working with Golden Boy Promotions, and those guys are consummate rivals, you know, all the time. And honestly, it pisses me off at both of them, bro. Yeah, it pisses me off at both of them. You know, they should be able to come together.
Y'all made millions with each other, multiple times.
Man.
My bad, True.
Seriously,
multiple times.
Yeah,
y'all made millions. So what's the issue, Floyd and Oscar? Why y'all can't go sit down and change the game of boxing? Y'all got the money, the power, and the prestige.
Well, and I was thinking about that. That's a great point. Change the game. You know why? Because I was thinking, I go, okay, because you know, I saw a post about the top 5 lightweights right now. 4 of them are very young, you know, and I'm like, you know what? Why can't, you know, I understand trying to protect your fighter, but if your fighter is ready now,
if he's ready to rock,
let's get it on. I mean, you know, because you might, they're going to have to bounce back from losses, but if people want the fights now and you can make a lot of money now, go for it. And we could be looking at the next 10 years of knowing all these guys' names instead of like the window of about 4 or 5 years that we normally get out of most fighters. You know, I mean, these guys are hot now at a very young age. So like,
we haven't had that in a long time.
They're all under 25, bro. So it's like, hey, let's get them in there now.
Change the culture
if it calls for it. You know?
I don't want to wait until they.
You can literally, you can literally change the culture if you have guys going in there, like you said, this group of young guys. Young guys come in here and bounce back from luck. Because I've told you guys before, that's what I feel is what hurts boxing now is guys try to hold on to their record, the undefeated record, so much you miss out on fights we want, you know. But I guess that's a part of boxing. But I'm glad we're talking about this because I got a couple questions before we get into our awards. We'll get it out the way now. And I'm gonna put you on the spot, True. First is give me a notable fight where a guy bounced back from a knockdown and ended up winning the fight. Can you think of one?
Oh, well, I mean, one where both guys got knockdowns, and it was kind of similar to both fights we saw. This one was De La Hoya and Ike Corte, which is one of my favorite fights ever. I mean, they traded De La Hoya knocked Corte down. In the same round, Ray Cortez knocked De La Hoya down.
Wow.
And they went at it. And going into the 12th round, I had Cortez winning by 1 point.
Okay.
And De La Hoya, in my book, needed to do what he did in the 12th. And he went out there and scored a knockdown in the 12th round and won the 12th round, gaining 2 points. And he won that fight, which was awesome. But I mean, it's happened more often than you think. You know, Diego Corrales and Jose Luis Castillo, bro. I mean, you know, we'll get into that fight later, but that is one of the greatest wars of all time. And Chico got put down twice in the 10th round, and he got up and he ended up knocking out Castillo in the same round. So, you know, it was just, you know, it's crazy. I mean, it's happened quite a bit, but those are two that kind of stick out.
Has it ever happened to the favorite? Does it happen a lot to the favorite getting knocked down and then winning the fight later on, or is it more the underdog that happens?
I mean, it can. It can. It depends, but I mean, you know what was good about it is I agree with Vaughn that it's, you know, you never want to see a guy take a knockdown, but at the same time, looking at, you know, the positive side of it is now he knows to be a little bit smarter, and maybe that's going to be a hard way for him to play defense now, you know, and to move his head, because we were talking yesterday, you know, and it wasn't just me and Vaughn, my boy Freddie on our group.
Yeah, they got in there. I was surprised.
Yeah. He was just like, hey, he don't play defense, you know, and that's the thing is you can hit. You heard how hard he hits, you know, you heard it.
Ryan's punches very hard.
But that's the thing. You can hit as hard as you want, Ray. But if you're going to get caught, man, I mean, Dillian White can speak to this with Povetkin. It don't matter how hard you hit. If you are not going to play defense, you're going to get caught. That could be lights out for you right there, you know? And all it takes is one, man. So, yeah, I mean, that's a good learning lesson for him. And he went and acknowledged it. That's why I like that kid. Got a lot of class. He went over there and said, "You're the first guy to ever put me on my ass," you know, and that was cool, man. That was good.
Right. So, yeah. What about you, Vaughn? Can you think of a notable fight where the favorite got knocked down and ended up coming out with the win still?
Let me think of something. Was that Ray Leonard and what's his name? Tommy the Hitman Hearns? I think the first fight.
Okay.
I think he knocked down Ray Leonard and Tommy ended up getting stopped.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And let me see. Let me get any other notable fights. I could think of another.
Well, let me hit you with the second question, because it actually will go towards that.
Go ahead.
Which one of you guys' favorite champion fighters had a suspect chin? You know, because I mean, nowadays we see guys that are just like Canelo's never been knocked out. At least I could think of never been knocked down. There's guys out there that just don't get knocked down. Is there any fighters, and my favorite I'm gonna say right now is probably Pacquiao. Was there any fighters that's been shown to get knocked down but are still champion fighters?
Lennox Lewis was one of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Klitschko.
Yeah, Klitschko.
Okay,
People would say Lennox chin was suspect at times. Klitschko, like True said, yeah.
Okay.
And
Ray, I don't think Pacquiao had a suspect.
Oh no, Manny Pacquiao ain't got no suspect chin.
I mean,
Manny ain't got suspect chin.
Like you know, like one I was thinking of while Vaughn was talking was when Mayweather got caught against Mosley,
right? But
then he came back and dominated that fight, and that was one of those fights where Mayweather wasn't moving. He stood right in the middle of the ring and beat the shit out of Mosley the whole fight, you know, after the knockdown. But yeah, you could tell it stunned him. That punch stunned him. He almost went down, but he didn't. You know, so that's one. You know, and that was a pretty significant one because nobody ever seen Mayweather get stunned or hurt, period. You know, and he got caught with a clean one, and then he came. I mean, I was so impressed with that performance. To me, that was probably his best win in terms of dominance because he stood in the middle of the ring. He didn't move. I remember that. He did not move. He stood right in the middle of the ring and let Mosley try to land one punch at a time, and he carved him to shreds, bro. I was like, damn, you know, he totally whipped his ass. So,
Okay. All right, well, appreciate those answers. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting fights with knockdowns and stuff. But like True said, a lot of them they come, but it's one of those things that I've always wondered which guys are notable to bounce back. But now we're gonna do the second segment. Now we're on the awards, right, guys? I don't want to call it up. Okay. Yeah. So the awards, True, you're gonna start it off and just let us know what we're doing and what the criteria is, and we'll go from there in this top 5.
Yeah, we're doing the title win of the year, correct?
Yes.
Let me see. Okay, so basically for that one, I mean, me and Vaughn were talking about this a while back. I like to lean towards guys that are becoming world champions for their first time, but man, COVID really kind of limited the year.
Mm-hmm.
And so I opened up the door like pretty much all the way to, it could be a unification title fight, winning, adding a world title. It could mean a lot of different things. You could become a world champion in a different weight class. It just really depended on the level of the fight, how big it was, and if you were truly the challenger as opposed to the champion, but unification bouts, Ray, usually means two world champions are going at it. I still look at you as a challenger thing because you're trying to add another world title, and that changes the game for you if you win it. If you have multiple title belts, you're looked at way different than as opposed to only having one. So for me, you're challenging for something. If you just have one or two or three world titles and it's either you lose them if you lose or you keep them if you win, that's a title defense, and we'll get into that later because we're doing that award. But I look at you as a challenger if you're trying to unify belts, and you guys are both.
Okay. Hold on, did True drop out?
No.
So
oh, there you go. Okay, I thought you dropped out. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So all right, I'll just break into my top 5 right now. Let me see. So title win of the year, a couple honorable mentions. I'm going with Maris Briedis' unanimous decision over Yunier Dorticos in the World Boxing. World Box. Yeah, no, that's cool. World Boxing Super Series finals. Briedis won the title from Dorticos and won the tournament. And that fight was to determine the top 2 guys at cruiserweight in the finals of that tournament. So that was very significant. I just want to throw some love to that one because it didn't make my top 5. Another one was Jason Rosario's 5th round TKO of J. Rock Williams to win the unified 154-pound title. That was a significant win, and it kind of gets swept under the rug because Rosario went on to lose to Charlo in a unification bout. But that was a big win for Rosario. It kind of put him right at the top of 154, which was a wide open division. And, it was a major upset too. So I threw him some love because that didn't make my top 5 either. So 5-1 now. Number 5 was Gervonta Davis's 6th round knockout of Leo Santa Cruz. That was huge. He came down to 130 after failing to make weight a couple times, which is why he moved up to 135 to begin with. And he came down to 130 to meet Santa Cruz for basically two belts. He had a 135-pound title, and he came down to challenge for the 130-pound title as well. And it was a back and forth, pretty much a little war right there for 6 rounds before he brutally knocked out Santa Cruz in the 6th round. Ray, we were at your house watching that one. So that was a huge win right there. It was the biggest of his career. And now he's got titles in 2 different weight classes. So that was impressive. Number 4 was Jermell Charlo's 8th round knockout of Jason Rosario. They fought in September on pay-per-view, and this was impressive because Charlo, I mean, I had a feeling he was going to win in the fashion that he did, but man, he just kicked the shit out of Rosario for 8 rounds. Rosario didn't even stand a chance in that fight, and it was a unification bout. Charlo had 1 belt, Rosario had 2, so the winner was getting 3 out of 4 belts in the division, which is very significant. And it really was to determine the number 1 fighter at 154. And Charlo whipped his ass. He won on a jab to the body is how he knocked down Rosario. And then Rosario was had like convulsions after because he got, Charlo whipped his ass. So that was an impressive one. Number 3 was Canelo's unanimous decision over Callum Smith to win the 2 titles at 168. Canelo just went in there and dominated Callum Smith, who was the number 1 fighter at 168. 2 of the titles were on the line. And Canelo just went in there like a bully, and he took on a guy who was 7 inches taller than him and had a way longer reach, and he just kicked the shit out of him for 12 rounds. So he won a one-sided decision right there and won the 2 world titles. So that was impressive. Number 2 was Tyson Fury's 7th round TKO of Deontay Wilder to win the WBC heavyweight title. Wilder came in my opinion, Wilder was a favorite, and he had been laying guys out and really had solidified himself as the number 1 heavyweight in the world in 2019. And their first fight had a lot of drama, as we've talked about already. And Fury went in there and kind of changed the game plan. I did say when I was doing the breakdown of the fight that the only way I thought Fury could really knock Wilder out is if he stepped inside of Wilder's range instead of letting Wilder finish his, get long and finish those big punches. He got into his chest and beat him up, and that's exactly what he did. And he broke him down, and it was an impressive beat down, really, was what it was, and stopped him in 7 rounds. So that was my number 2. And then number 1, I mean, it's won a couple awards already for me already. It was a very significant fight, but it was Teofimo Lopez's unanimous decision over Vasily Lomachenko to become the undisputed lightweight champion. I mean, he only had 1 belt coming in, and he walked away with all 4. And that's a significant thing because he's only I believe, the 6th fighter, the 5th or the 6th fighter in the past 30 years that has been able to win all 4 major world titles. So that was impressive. It was a close fight. I had it a draw, but again, I got no problem with Lopez winning, especially the way he fought the 12th round. I thought that was impressive, because he fought like he needed to win, and he dug deep, and he won that 12th round for sure. And that was impressive. So, that one, it was just such a significant fight. And Lomachenko was a big favorite. He was number 2 or 3 pound for pound going in. And Lopez is only 23 years old, and he comes in and beats a guy who realistically has only lost 1 fight in even reaching back to the amateurs. Well, 2 fights, but his 2nd fight as a pro, I don't like to count that one because the one guy was way bigger than Lomachenko because he missed weight, and Lomachenko pretty much got robbed. That guy should have lost points for dirty fighting in that against Orlando Salido, and just a lot of controversy on that one. But realistically, he only lost 1 time dating back to the amateurs. So Lopez went in there and beat a guy of that level, and he had a lot working against him, and he went out there and passed the test. So that was my title win of the year right there.
Nice. All right, Vaughn, what about your top wins of the year?
All right. So like he said, I wanted to give love to Rosario and Williams. That was a nice win for Rosario. He came out of the woodworks, with that win. So yeah, that's one of my notable mentions. And so let me just get started on it. So number 5, I got to show love this year to my top 5 title wins. I'm showing love to my guys at the lower weights. Kazuto Ioka. His win over Kosei Takanaka was a big win for me because if Kozo Ioka, he's been around for a while, and at the lower weights, man, he's fought nothing but quality competition. He lost a split decision to Donnie Netes. He's a really good guy at the Filipino dude. He beat McWilliams Arroyo. He beat this kid Javier Cintron, and now Javier Cintron was a hot prospect coming out of Puerto Rico. It's the lower weights. I know guys don't really know about it, but you know what I'm saying. And Tanaka actually broke Lomachenko's record for the fastest fastest fights to become a world champion. And I think this was like, if he would have won this fight, he would have broke Lomachenko's record for multiple weight champions, the fastest in the most less fights. So Kosei, he ended up, it was a good fight. I mean, Kosei Tanaka was the favorite, but I mean, Kozo Ioka, he's a dog, man, and he broke Tanaka down, which I had Tanaka I was picking Tanaka to win that fight, but Ioka, he just showed like, man, it was a good fight, fellas. Y'all should go back and watch that one. It's a great fight, man. Landed 3 knockdowns, stopped him on his feet. That was a big win for me. And then at number 4, I got to give some love to my guy, Morodos John Akhmadelev win over Daniel Roman. So Daniel Roman, good fighter, been around for a while, unified champion. What did the fight? He won. He fought Akhmadev. So Akhmadev has been around, good Uzbek kid. He's only 26 years old. Only had 8 fights, 6 knockouts, and became a unified world champion. And in a fight that was really close. It could have went any way, but he got the nod. So that was a big one for me. I got to show love to the man. And then at number 3, like True had, I had a Canelo Alvarez win over Callum Smith. He beat the number 1 super middleweight to me at the time. Former Ring Magazine super middleweight champion and former Muhammad Ali trophy winner. He won the WBA title, Canelo, and he also picked up the vacant WBC title. So now he's a unified champion at 168 pounds. That's a big way for Canelo to come back. Canelo's proved that he is number 1 pound for pound boxer in the world. And then at number 2, I got my guy, Jermell, keep running your mouth, Charlo's win over Jason Rosario. Jason Rosario. Now, Jason Rosario is not the biggest name, but for Jermell to finally accomplish that, become a unified champion, become maybe there's only 3 fighters with 3 belts in boxing. That's Teofimo Lopez, Anthony Joshua, and now Jermall Charlo. And anytime you can get 3 belts, I always put you high on the list. That's just me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a great win. Like True said, Jermell went in there, got the job done, broke him down, did what he had to do. And then I got a tie for number 1. I know I shouldn't have done this, but I do. I'm gonna go with first. I'm gonna go with 1B. At 1B, I got Tyson Fury's win over Deontay Wilder. That was huge. Like True said, everything True said basically. That's what it was. Deontay Wilder was ranked number 1 heavyweight in the world, 10 title defenses, vaunted power. Just the dude. All it takes is one with Deontay Wilder, and Fury went in there and he cleaned him up. Fury came in there, got the job done, became WBC champion, and he's on to bigger and better things, or maybe a rematch with Wilder. We shall see. And then number 1, Teofimo Lopez went over Lomachenko. That's just that's consensus title win of the year. I know it's a unification bout, but he was able to pick up 2 other titles. He was able to beat, at my time, the number 1 pound for pound fighter in the world, Vasily Lomachenko. Do it in that fashion. Doing it only in 16 fights at 23 years old. Yeah, title win of the year for me. Wow, that's it.
Wow. That's big. That's big. Any comments on that? True.
No, I think we pretty much, floating around the same things. That Murad Akhmadayev win, it was a big win. It almost made my list. It was just there were so many title wins. It was just tough to include it. But that was a good one. That was a good one. Yeah.
Okay. So now we're gonna switch gears and go title defenses of the year. Vaughn, you're gonna start that off and let us know if you have any special criteria that goes along with that title defense of the year.
Me. I think title defense of the year, I usually look at the opponent that the fighter is fighting.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I also look at where a fighter's came from. Has he not? You know what I'm saying? Like I always look at where a fighter came from. You know what I'm saying? And I look at that's one of the things I look at. It's not always about the biggest name that they fought, but I also look at when they win, what does it lead them to?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. That makes sense.
That's one of my little weird things. What does that title win lead them to? So I'm going to go with number 5, Errol Spence versus Danny Garcia. I think that was a big win for Errol Spence because him coming back from the injuries, fighting a guy like Danny Garcia, high-level welterweight, beating him in the fashion he did. And it leads Earl to possibly, if him and Terrence Crawford can figure the hell out, a unification bout, or possibly with Manny Pacquiao, which I don't think is going to happen. But that can lead him to that, or it can lead him to, those are the 2 big options, or a fight with Keith Thurman, or a rematch with Sean Porter. So it leads him to some good roads. If Earl, if Manny picks him, or him and Terrence can honestly just sit down and work something out. So I got that at 5th. At number 4, I got Neho Inoue versus Jason Maloney. I think that against Maloney, one of the Maloney brothers. I think reason why I'd say that is because Inoue, that was a big win for him. Not a big win, but it was a nice win for him on American television. You know what I'm saying? Because Inoue is growing in America. He's starting to grow. You know what I'm saying? People in America starting to know who he is. You know what I'm saying? The hardcores know who he is, but even the people, casual fans, are starting to get to know Inoue a little bit better because they hear us talking about him all the time. Mm-hmm. So, and that's going to lead him to a fight that I'm hecka excited about. John Riel Casimiro, it's a unification bout. That's, John Riel Casimiro loves to talk. It's very, he's going to, market him and, Inoue. It's going to be a marketable fight. He's going to talk a lot. He's going to speak up the fight. He's got power, pretty good fighter. And I think that's just going to help Inoue grow more in the American public. Then at number 3, I had Juan Francisco Estrada win over Carlos Curates. And the reason why I had that in there is because Estrada is going to fight Chocolatito. Now, they fought before. Chocolatito won a close fight. But this is the rematch. And this fight right here, both guys, Curates is on a lot of people's pound for pound list. Chocolatito for years has been on the pound for pound list, and probably, you know, some people he is for years. It's going to be a really, really, really good fight. I think that was a big win for him because Estrada had to kind of come back. Didn't he get knocked down, True, in that fight?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, Estrada got knocked down. He had to come back and and he stopped Corrales. I think in the 10th round, 9th round, it was around that. Stopped him. So that was my number 3. Number 2, I got Anthony Joshua versus Kubrat Pulev. Reason why I say that win was a big title defense because now it can lead AJ to a undisputed match with Tyson the Gypsy King Fury. And that fight, you know, that's going to be probably one of the biggest probably the biggest fight in boxing. You know what I'm saying? One of the biggest, or if not the biggest fight in boxing. And that, you know, that leads to that road. So that's why I picked that there at number 2. And then number 1, I got Teofimo Lopez versus Vasily Lomachenko because he put his title on the line against him. It was a unification bout. I just thought that Teofimo winning that fight, like I said, was 16 fights, beating a guy like Lomachenko. The years, you know, people thought he was crazy for years, him and his father saying they was going to beat him. I even thought it. I was like, I'm like, T.O., you ain't ready for that. You know, for years, they was telling us, for years, we're going to beat him. We beat him. We like, people like, bruh, stop it. You know what I'm saying? And then for them to do it, you know what I'm saying? To prove all the doubters like myself wrong and to do that, yeah, that was title defense of the year. And also, I snuck my boy in there, Jamil. Keep running your mouth, Charlo, with Rosario. All right, go ahead, Drew. I ain't gonna say too much. Snuck him in there.
Okay. So for mine was I had two tied for 5th. I wanted to show some love to both these champions. First was Gary Russell's unanimous decision over Tusko Nyambayar
interesting
in
one.
February. Russell, you know, Nyambayar was an undefeated Mongolian fighter. He was a mandatory challenger for Russell. Guy brings it. He likes the fight. He's, you know, throws a lot of punches, but Russell just pretty much outboxed him, outclassed him the whole fight. You know, Russell continues to prove, and it pisses me off in a way because he is so good. I hate that he only fights once a year. You know, I wish we could see him more, but that's his choice, you know, but yeah, you know, he just put his skills on display. He's been champion since 2015. And, you know, he just proved again why he's right at the top of 126. So that was a nice win for him. And then number 5 was also tied for it was Terrence Crawford's 4th round TKO of Kell Brook. I don't, you know, to keep his welterweight title, you know, Crawford, it struggles to find top tier opponents. And, you know, Kell Brook is a former champ. You know, I don't think people are surprised that Crawford beat him, but for Crawford to beat him so quickly like that, even though Kell Brook is past it, you know, he's still only 32, Kell Brook. So, you know, it was just impressive that he was able to just beat his ass on only 4 rounds, you know, because Kell Brook had a pretty good second round, you know, and it was still early. And, you know, Brook was showing his skill set that he's, you know, he can fight, but Crawford hurt him and then he jumped on him and didn't let him recover. And, you know, he stopped him in 4 rounds, which is impressive. And it shows you that Crawford is very hungry to get in there with top tier talent. So, you know, he stayed at the top of, you know, right next to the top of welterweight. So that was impressive. Number 4 was Anthony Joshua's 9th round knockout of Kubrat Pulev. Just the way he dominated Pulev, you know, over in that fight. And, you know, when he does have the showdown with Tyson Fury, again, that changes the game when you're facing a guy who's not a big name opponent and you have a big name opponent waiting for you. You know, that changes it. Some guys focus on that next step and they lose focus against the guy in front of them, which leads to upset losses, or it could lead to just bad performances, you know, where people start to question you and stuff. So, you know, he broke down Kubrat Pulev pretty impressively and stopped him, brutally stopped him with a 9th round knockout. So that one, you know, was number 4. Number 3, I gave it to Jose Ramirez's 12 round majority decision over Victor Postol in August. That was you know, Ramirez, another guy, was looking ahead to undisputed title fight against Josh Taylor. And, you know, he had been waiting around a long time for the showdown with Postol. They had a couple of postponements, you know, and actually pissed me off because I wanted to go see them fight in May in Fresno, you know, and that got canceled because of COVID. So, you know, but Ramirez, you know, he had to dig deep in this one against against a Postal who, that dude is just a hog. He comes to fight. He's underrated, but he's tall. He throws a lot of punches, and he's a good boxer. So he's kind of a full package, and he can take a punch. And Ramirez, it was a close fight. He had to work hard, but he got the majority decision and walked out with his 2 world titles. So that one was number 3. And then number 2 was Jermall Charlo's 12-round decision over Sergey Derevyanchenko when they fought in September. Charlo had a lot of detractors of how good he really was. And Derevyanchenko gave hell to Triple G a year before. So coming into this fight, Charlo took the fight. And I applauded him just for that. I thought, honestly, I picked Derevyanchenko. It was tough, though. It was a tough, pick for me because I felt like Charlo could very well win, but I felt like it was going to be tough. And you know what? It was kind of tough, but Charlo put it on Derevyanchenko, and that was impressive. He really hit him with good shots. He never let Derevyanchenko take the tide of the fight from him. That was what was impressive is towards the middle rounds, Derevyanchenko started to land a few more shots, and then Charlo was like, nope. And he would land a huge right hand to just change the momentum right back to in his favor. And he never gave the momentum to Derevyanchenko, and he kind of beat him up. Derevyanchenko was bloodied and beat up by the end of the fight. And to me, that was his biggest win for Charlo of his career. And I was impressed with it because Derevyanchenko was a full load, and he's a good fighter. So that was number 2. And then number 1, I gave it to Errol Spence's 12-round decision over Danny Garcia. Errol Spence to come back after that bad car accident and have a performance like that. And against a guy like Danny Garcia, who is always a tough out, and I'm sorry. I mean, I like Danny and I would love to say that he was competitive in that fight. And there was some rounds where he was, but Errol Spence put it on his ass. He whipped his ass. I mean, I gave Errol Spence 10 rounds in that fight. And he really just, it was one-sided. It was, like I said, Danny had some moments. But, and that just shows how good Danny is. But Errol Spence put it on his ass. He whipped his ass. He kept both world titles. And you know what? For me, that was enough, given his resume at 147 against Crawford's overall resume. That was enough for me to finally put Errol Spence ahead of Terrence Crawford at welterweight. So, that to me is big because that's the best division in boxing right now. So, that was a huge win and a big title defense. And that was my number 1 on the year. So
wow. Yeah, good number 5 from both you guys. I got a question. I don't want to hold us up too much, but this Bond made me think of it. Can we think of actually no, you made me think of it, True, is when you said that some guys look towards the future guy instead of the guy in front of them. Have you seen future fights be, I'm sure you've seen it, but can you think of a future fight that's been held up because that guy didn't take another guy serious and we're like, we all throw our hands up, kind of like the Joshua, when Joshua got knocked out by, what's his name? Was it Garcia?
Andy Ruiz. Yeah.
Ruiz, there you go. It's kind of like we're like, damn, now the Wilder and him fight is going to get postponed, or the him and Tyson Fury get postponed. You guys think of something like that where it kind of threw a wrench in the other top 2 guys?
Oh, geez. I mean, there have been a lot of them.
Yeah.
But, I mean, off the top of my head, one that I can remember that took the flavor out of the fight. The fight still went on, but one of the guys lost was, I think it was Pacquiao was lining up to fight Eric Morales, and they fought on the same card. Mm-hmm. And, God, what was the guy's name that beat Eric Morales that night, Vaughn?
Was it Zaire Rahim?
No. Yes. Yeah. No, it was one. Yeah. And Morales got beat. Now Pacquiao still went forward with the fight with Morales, Ray, but it just took the flavor out of it. But you know what? It kind of had a counter effect though, because Pacquiao took on Morales and he might have been overlooking him, bro, because Morales beat him in the first fight.
Oh wow! Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So
it was Zaire Rahim. My bad. True.
Yeah. So that was one where it kind of it didn't postpone the fight, but it definitely took the flavor out. And then Pacquiao lost the first fight, so it was like, whoa, maybe for Pacquiao, he kind of wasn't taking Morales as serious after Rahim beat him. But Rahim just had one of those styles, man, that was just a kind of a pure boxing style where he stepped side to side and really it threw Morales off completely.
Yeah, he was always difficult.
Yeah.
Because he had a split decision with Asalcito Popo Freitas back in the day, and I was like, but Freitas was like, man, he was tricky. I remember.
Well, there's a lot of people that thought he beat Freitas in that fight. So yeah.
Wow. Bob, can you think of anybody, or you kind of agree that that's one of the fights that comes to mind?
That's one of them that really come to mind. That's a good one, True. You be on it, True. On it. Let me see. It was another fight that was I know there's plenty of them, but I'm trying to think of one that would be nice and juicy that just threw the wind out of a fight. Let me see.
Because I know we all have like a timeline on fights. You know what I mean? Some like not so much official, but unofficial timeline. And then when something happens, it's not supposed to work. Kind of like, oh, that pushes that back. You know what I mean? That's how I kind of looked at the Ruiz and Joshua.
Dang. I don't know. I'm stumped. I'm gonna go with yours.
okay, it's all good. Okay, so now on our
honestly, it was hard for me to come up with one exactly the way you laid it out, Ray. That's why I came up with the Pacquiao one, because that was the only one where I could think like, oh man, there's even a little bit of that, but it happens a lot, bro.
Yeah,
it does happen a lot. It is a common thing. Yeah.
So. Okay. All right. Well, what about the third segment? So third segment, we're doing our top 10s and 160 middleweights. What would you guys say popularity is on the middleweights? Is it up there, mid range? What would you guys say about that?
Mid range for me.
Yeah, mid range now, because Canelo left the division officially. Actually, it's good we're talking about this division, because Canelo just the other day gave up his title that he had at 160 still. He officially gave it up. And it was one of those belts that he didn't have to do that, because one of the governing bodies is the WBA, and they hand out the super title and the regular title. Now, the difference between those two is the super champion doesn't have to make mandatories, right? Mm-hmm. He can fight whoever he wants and still be champion. Yeah. The regular champion has to make the mandatories and go through that whole process. So Canelo, like a good example is Leo Santa Cruz. Technically, Leo Santa Cruz, even though we're coming up on 2 years since he fought at featherweight, he's still technically the super champion at featherweight. Mm-hmm. So he could move back down after the loss to Davis and defend that title at 126. And that's still considered to be a legitimate belt. Well, Canelo had the super title at middleweight. So even though Canelo moved up to 168 and he fought at 175 prior to that, there were still a lot of people that thought he was going to float between the three divisions. And there was some guys like Errol Spence who've been calling him out saying, I'll meet you at middleweight. Well, that ain't going to happen anytime soon, at least between Spence and Canelo. And any of those guys at 160 that wanted to fight Canelo, they could forget it at 160. They're going to have to chase him at 168. Wow. So, which the cool part is I think all of them do, but there is still some talent in this division. I like this division still. Okay. So.
All right. Well, Vaughn, we'll start out with you with your top 10, and I'll let you handle the format. Go ahead.
All right. So, my top 10, I'm just how we've been doing our top 10s. So right now, top 10, I'm going to go with number 10, Liam Williams. Liam Williams is from the UK. He's been around for a little bit. He just came off Alexante Fox. He fought Alexante Fox. That was like his biggest win of his career. He stopped Alexante Fox which in a fight that, I was kind of going back and forth with who was going to win that fight. But that was his big win, and then he beat Andrew Robinson. He's just a guy in the UK that just kind of like, he's just there to like fight and look impressive. So, and then he's it's got him now. He's a number 2 in the WBO rankings. Now, the thing about the number 2 in the WBO rankings in the middleweight division is he could possibly fight Boo Boo Andrade at the middleweight for the WBO middleweight title. But what I think is going to happen, Boo Boo's going to go up to 168. And I think he's going to try to fight Billy Joe Saunders. So I think him and I think he could be fighting Boo Boo or Jaime Munguia. Jaime Munguia for the vacant title or Boo Boo for the WBO title. So he's in the title shot. Then I got at number 9, I got Liam Smith. Liam Smith is number 2, I believe, in the what is it? The WBO rankings? Is it the WBO? He's number 2, or no? I think it's number 3 or whatever. And Liam Smith has been around for a while. He beat Liam Williams twice. The guy that I'm talking about is number 10. He beat him twice. I think it was at 154 pounds at the time, or 106. I think it's one of them. So Liam Smith, I got him at number 9. At number 8, I got Jaime Munguia. Jaime Munguia came up to 154. He's a good middleweight contender. He's he's under Golden Boy Promotions. He's one of those fighters that I think Oscar De La Hoya can promote, and build him. If, Jaime becomes a champion, he was a champion at 154, but he went up weight because he's a big kid, very big kid. You know what I'm saying? He's got the Terminator kind of style. Him and Jared Hurd, they take punches and they give them. They just big, strong dudes, and they just like, Come on, show me what you got. You know what I'm saying? And Jaime's currently ranked number one in the WBC rankings and the number one in the WB rankings. So Jaime's got two directions for a title shot. He could fight a guy like Jamal Charlo, which I don't think is going to happen, or he could wait and see what happens with Boo Boo, and him and Liam Williams can fight for the vacant title. And I think that's a very, very makeable fight, him and Liam Williams. Then I got number 7, Chris Eubanks. Chris Eubank Jr. He's currently number one in the WBA rankings. Chris Eubanks is he fought at 168. He was a good contender at 168. You know, he had a decent run. He came up short in some fights against George Groves, and he lost to Billy Joe at I think 160. I mean, he's a good fighter. You know, been around for a little bit. You know, powerful dude. He's number one in the WBA rankings, and Real Marata is the champion currently at the WBA. He's the full champion now because Canelo vacated the title. You know what I'm saying? And so him and Marata, that could be a possible title, possible shot that can happen. Fight can happen if Chris Eubanks is willing to go to Japan. And I think I think it could be possible because PBC, they want to get them titles. So I think PBC would be willing to allow. I think PBC would be willing to allow him to fight on Top Rank to try to go get that title. But that's just me. That's what I'm saying. Then number 6, I got Rob Brandt. Rob Brandt. I mean, he's not the most known, super not the most known middleweight, but he's been in the division for a while. He's pretty good middleweight. He's had some decent opponents in his time, got a decent win. He beat Rio Marata, who's the WBA champion. But then he lost in the second fight in the rematch. He got stopped. I was shocked. I ain't gonna even lie. He's got a lot. He lost to Jürgen Brähmer. Jürgen Brähmer is this dude who's been around forever. But Jürgen Brähmer fought at 168. He even fought at 175. You know what I'm saying? So he was fighting a bigger guy. You know what I'm saying? And so yeah, I got him at number 6. He just came off a win against Vitaly Klopyanko. Klopyanko is not really nothing like that, but he did what he was supposed to do. He got him out of there. So I got Rob Brandon there. He's still putting himself in position to get a title shot. He'll still be in position to fight somebody in the top 5 in the WBA. Then I got number 5, the current WBA champion, Ryota Murata. He is my 5th best top middleweight in the world. Ryota Murata, he stopped Steve Butler. He came back after that loss to Rob Brandt, and he stopped him in the second round. That was big for him. He also lost to Hassan Idam Njinkama. I can't say the man's last name. He lost a split decision to him, but he came back and he got the 7-round stoppage. So he's been around for a while. He's a champion. I gotta give the champions love. Number 4, I got Sergey Devryanchenko. Now, True, like True said, he gave what's the name? Hell, Triple G hell in that fight. I mean, I was shocked the way he gave to put it on Triple G. And yeah, and he's been around. He also gave what's the name a really good fight, Danny Jacobs, and he also, he just came up short against Jamal Charlo. You know what I'm saying? But and he also beat Jack Cloquet. He's beat Toriel Johnson. Stopped Toriel Johnson. I mean, he's a good fighter, man. He's only had like 16 fights and he's fought nothing but good competition. So shout out to Mr. Devryanchenko. Number 3, I got Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade, the WBO champion. Boo Boo doesn't have the biggest names on his resume. That's not his fault, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? I feel like he's one of the more avoided fighters in boxing. But Boo Boo's been around, top level dude. If Boo Boo could get the fights, he would be higher on my list, but he's number 3 right now. Boo Boo Andrade. I think he could beat any of the top middleweights in this division, but I currently got him at number 3. Number 2, I got Jamal Charlo. Jamal Charlo is the WBC champion. He's came off his biggest win of his career against Sergey Devryanchenko, and he was impressive in that fight. Like True said, it was a fight that he kind of, he won kind of pretty damn soundly. So I currently got him at number 2. We'll see what's going on with Jamal after this. The WBC, he's fought a lot of guys in those rankings in the WBC. I don't know what's next for him. Maybe Chris Adams, maybe. I don't know. Jaime Munguia is realistic. I like Jamal is in a peculiar situation. You know what I'm saying? And then I got number 1, the former unified champion, IBF champion, Gennady Golovkin. We know about Gennady. Gennady's been around. He's one of the more dominant middleweights of his time. He's fought Canelo Alvarez. I mean, he's beat some pretty good opponents. I mean, this Triple G's at 38 years old, still going strong, still doing his thing. And I mean, the man is still a monster at his old age. Yeah, he might have slowed down a little bit, but he's still good enough to beat top guys in his division. So yeah, that's my top 168, fellas.
Okay,
I mean,
okay.
160. Yeah.
160. Okay, okay, true.
Yeah, so I'll just discuss my outs real quick. I had Canelo dropping out. Obviously, he was number
Yeah.
one previously because he moved up to 168. Um, Also dropping out was Matt Korobov. He was previously my number 10.
Yeah.
He's still ranked in the WBC, but injuries have killed him in his last two fights, and he's an older guy. He's 37 now, so
Yeah.
kind of up there. Not sure how good he's going to be. And after the second injury loss, that really we never really got to see, the entire fight to kind of measure him. Plus, he was fighting a guy who was way overweight and not even a name worth talking about in Ronald Ellis. So I took him out of my top 10, but me and Vaughn are pretty in sync with the top 10. There's only one guy I didn't have in it was because I don't know if Liam Smith is an official middleweight yet because for a couple of reasons. Smith has a better resume than a couple of the guys at the back of the top 10, but his last two fights he's fought at 159 is what he's weighed in at, but his opponents weighed in at 154, and they're still talking about Smith possibly fighting Jesse Vargas at 154. And they're both promoted by it's an easy to make fight with Matchroom. So because of that, I kept him out for now. If he fights one more time at middleweight, I'm gonna move him up to middleweight officially.
Okay.
But it was one of those ones where I was like splitting hairs. I almost put him in, and then I looked at his last two fights and the weights of his opponents, and I'm like, you know what? I don't think this guy's fully committed to middleweight yet. So
Yeah.
that it was one of those ones where me and you almost had the exact same top 10.
Yeah.
Number 10 is Liam Williams. Same thing. The guy's 28. He went 1-0 this year. Has only lost a couple fights in his career. He's a WBO number 2. I think he's gonna fight Andre because I don't think Andre is gonna get Billy Joe if he moves up to
Yeah.
168. It looks like Andre's
He's the
gonna. It looks
sweepstakes
like
winner.
yeah, it looks like
Billy Joe.
Billy Joe's gonna get Canelo in May. Is how the game plan looks like it's gonna play out. If that happens, then and to be honest, I think Billy Joe has other guys that he would rather face anyways, like Danny Jacobs, because Andre's gonna be a tough matchup. So there's Danny Jacobs and and I think I can't remember. It was Danny Jacobs is another option. Andre might be a second or third. So I personally feel like Andre's going to stay busy. They're already discussing a date between Andre and Williams for February on the zone. I think Andre's going to take him on, and personally, I think Williams is going to lose that fight for sure. But he'll get his shot at a world title, in my opinion. Number 9 is undefeated contender Kanat Islam. The guy's 36 years old. He's 27-0, 21 knockouts. Really, Ray, the back of the top 10, man. I had to really split some hairs and look at what these guys have done. And a couple of them haven't really done much. Like Vaughn said, Williams made it because of his win over Alontes Fox. Kanat Islam beat another guy that Demetrius Andre beat, Walter something. The guy's last name's all messed up. So it was it's splitting hairs, but this guy's 36. He's undefeated. He's 36. He almost got the fight with Jaime Munguia this year. But this guy needs to do something because he didn't fight at all in 2020. So he needs to come back and do something in 2021 if he wants to stay here. But he's right on the verge of dropping out. If somebody else makes a name and moves in. Number 8 is former champion Rob Brandt. He stays number 8. He's 30 years old. He had a nice win over Vitaly Kopalenko. Like he was supposed to. But Rob Brandt, he's not ranked in any of the governing bodies right now, so he's not paying in those sanctioning fees. A little surprised by that because he had a mandatory third fight with Ryota Murata. The only reason that fight didn't get made in 2020 is because of the travel restrictions because of COVID. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of surprised that he's not ranked at all by the WBA because he stopped a Triple G Ryota Murata fight when he upset Ryota Murata in 2018. Triple G, after losing to Canelo, was going to go straight into a fight with Ryota Murata. That was lined up, and then Murata got upset by Rob Brandt, and he got his ass whipped in that fight. Rob Brandt put it on him for 12 rounds. But the rematch, Murata caught him early and hurt him and knocked him out last year and took the title back. But Rob Brandt was owed a mandatory third fight. So I hope that fight happens because the first two were pretty good. They had big differences. One guy whipped the other guy's ass over 12. The other guy knocked the other guy out early. So you want to see if the third fight's going to go into the middle rounds or later rounds and if Ryota Murata could beat him. So I really hope we do see a third fight this year. Number 7 is Jaime Munguia, undefeated, former champ at 154. This guy had 2 exciting ass fights this year in last year in 2020. He made his debut at the weight against Gary O'Sullivan, always a tough Irish fighter, and he stopped him in 11 rounds. But man, Gary O'Sullivan landed a punch in the second round right at the end that there was about 9 seconds left in the round when he hurt Munguia. If that fight goes on if that round goes on another 10, 15 seconds, he might have stopped Munguia. He hit him that hard and hurt him that bad, man.
Wow, wow.
It was big. But Munguia figured out that if you use a jab, you could win fights, which I say that sarcastically because, God, guys, how many years have we been talking about using your jab? But he started using his jab and his power punching combined, and he broke down Gary O'Sullivan and stopped him in the 11th round. And an exciting fight. That was a good one. And then he had a war, man, with Turiano Johnson in October. I mean, you go back, first off, it was one of the nastiest cuts I've ever seen on Turiano Johnson's lip, right? He split it completely open.
I think I've seen that. Yeah.
That was nasty, bro. Actually, I think I might have sent you that picture.
Yeah, I think you did. Yeah.
Yeah. But he won on a knockout with that. The guy's 36-0, 29 knockouts. As Vaughn said, he's number 1 in the WBC and the WBO. I don't think Charlo's realistic either. I agree with Vaughn on that one. But I do think he might be waiting around to fight for the vacant title. But something I heard the other day that I read is that Munguia's people are ready to put him in against Triple G if Triple G wants it.
Ooh.
And I would love to see that fight, because Munguia is only 24, Triple G's 38. Munguia punches like a freight train, but Triple G is still a beast, And the cool thing about Triple G now is Triple G gets hit more than he used to get hit because he slowed down a little bit, but he still can take punches. He can still hit hard, and that calls for more exciting fights. And I can't wait. I think Triple G's he might not get Canelo at all this year, but there's a couple fights if he can wrangle him in at middleweight that makes sense for him if he can't get a big fight at 168 while he waits around for a third fight with Canelo. So, and I think him and Jaime Munguia, if that's for real, that's a great fight right there and a great matchup. So I'd love to see it. Number 6, moving up one spot for number 7 is WBA champion Ryota Murata. As Vaughn said, he's the full champion now that Canelo gave up the belt. He's 34, 2012 Olympic gold medalist. He's a good fighter. We got to see. Like I said, I'd like to see a rubber match with him and Rob Brandt. I'd love to see Murata and Triple G try to unify titles since they almost came to terms to make the fight anyways. I think that's a fight that Bob Arum would be willing to let Ryota Murata go to DAZN because Triple G is such a big name. So, I think that fight makes a lot of sense, and it'd be a legitimate unification bout. Chris Eubank is a good one. He's the interim champion for the WBA. That'd be a good one too. So Murata, if Top Rank and Bob Arum can get him to fights, he's got some options, and I hope he gets them because he's a pretty talented fighter. He's a good fighter from Japan. He didn't fight at all last year though because of travel restrictions, but he almost got a Canelo fight. He was very close to a Canelo fight last year. So number 5 is Chris Eubank Jr., the interim champion in the WBA. He stays number 5 overall. He didn't fight either in 2020, but one option that I wanted to mention was, obviously Ryota Murata is there, but I think Eubank and Charlo could be matched up next for the title.
Yeah, both on PBC.
Yeah, they're both with PBC, and Charlo had a choice to make. He either could fight Derevyanchenko or Eubank, and he chose Derevyanchenko. And really, if Charlo doesn't get a big fight, which I think he's ready for those now, he wants big fights. If he's not going to move up to 168 with the hopes of Canelo happening right away, that's probably not going to happen. He should fight whoever he can get in the ring who's decent. And Chris Eubank is a pretty decent fighter. And you know what? That fight's got fireworks written all over it, man. It really does, because Eubank hits hard. I think he hits a little harder, but they both have a lot of power. But Charlo's a better boxer, and I'm really interested in that matchup right there, because Eubank's a guy that's been hit by super middleweights, and I want to see how Charlo hits him. I want to see how Charlo takes his shot. So that's a really good matchup. That I honestly, I'm going to call it right now. I think Charlo's going to fight Eubank next. I'm going to just say that right now.
Wow.
So
Wow.
And I hope they do, because Eubank deserves a big fight. That guy's been waiting around. He whipped James DeGale's ass in February of last year, and really has been avoided ever since, so he deserves a shot.
Okay.
Number 4, like Vaughn, is Sergey Derevyanchenko, former 3-time world title challenger. He was number 4 last year, 13-3, 10 knockouts. He's still the WBC's number 2 contender. He's 35 now, though. He lost to Charlo this year. He pretty much got worked in that fight. But he always fights hard. He He flirted with moving up to 168, to fight Canelo. I think he can do anything he wants, but I think he needs to stay active, because at 35, man, there's not a lot of time left, and he's already fought for world titles 3 consecutive years, and he's lost. Whether one way or the other, he's lost. And we really got to see how good he is. So he needs to try to stay active. And I think one fight he needs to look into if he wants to get another world title shot, and I think it'd be there if Andrade stays at 160. Why not Andrade, who gets avoided by everybody, go after Demetrius Andrade? It would build Andrade's career. Derevyanchenko, I don't think, would be a complete, nobody that nobody thinks he could possibly win. I don't think he wins that fight, but you never know. Right. So, I mean, I think that's a good matchup for a guy in his position if Andrade wants to fight too, which I think he would. So, speaking of Andrade, he's number 3. He's the undefeated WBO champion. He moves up 3 spots from last year. He was number 6 last year. He's 32. He's 29-0, 18 knockouts. He only fought once in January. He beat some unknown British fighter, Luke Keeler, stopped him in 9 rounds. Andrade's, Yvonne's right. He's on that what do I want to move up and wait or stay here phase now. I know Eddie Hearn came out the other day and said that if Andrade doesn't move up, then he's going to go after he's going to try to make Triple G and Demetrius Andrade. I don't think Triple G wants anything to do with Andrade. And the reason why is, Andrade's a good, solid boxer, but he doesn't have a big name. And he's one of those guys, Ray, that even if you beat him, you're not going to look good beating him. He's one of those southpaws that is just built to make you look bad. And he doesn't have a big name. So those guys are high risk, low reward, like we talk about all the time.
Right,
So if anybody were to fight a guy like Andrade, it'd be a guy like Triple G, because Triple G's fearless. But at this point, I think with the zones push and with Triple G, where he's at in his career, they only really want bigger fights. Or if you're going to fight a lower level guy, not a big name, make sure it's a guy you're going to smash on and beat,
Right.
So taking this kind of risk at Triple G's career, although I would give him so much props if he did it, I still think Triple G wins the fight, but I think it's a good one. It's a tough fight. So, but Andrade, if the guy moves up to 168, there are more options at 168 there for him. But again, those guys got to want to fight him, man. Andrade's widely avoided because of his style. So it's one of those things where, like, I like him, but you don't know what fight he's going to get into, and you really don't know how good he is yet, because the top level guys haven't fought him. So, number 2 is Jermall Charlo, the undefeated WBC champion. He's 30 now. I think Charlo's truly in his prime. And I really hope to see him and Eubank. I would love him and Canelo. We talked about that the last podcast, but I really think he's kind of on Canelo's radar, maybe in 2021. 2022.
Okay.
And I think Charlo, a good option is to fight Eubank now, and then maybe move up to super middleweight and get a fight in, 2 fights in at super middleweight. If he can't get like a Triple G in the ring this year, or another fight like Munguia, I think fighting against Andrade's a mistake for a guy like Charlo. He's got too big of a name. He's got too many good fights possibly lined up for him. Why take the risk on a guy like Andrade? It's a bad matchup, like I said. But, if he did it, I give him all the props in the world for that. So Charlo's number 2. And number 1, like Vaughn, our top 4 were exactly the same. It's Triple G, the IBF champ. He moves up 1 spot from number 2. He's 38. Overall, the guy is 41-1-1 with 36 knockouts. And his one loss was the majority decision loss to Canelo, and his draw was the controversial draw with Canelo. Both fights that a lot of people would argue he won. Triple G is still a monster. That dude is still a beast. He destroyed his mandatory number one contender, whose name is so messed up, and he got his ass whipped so bad that I'm not even gonna try to pronounce it right now. So, yeah. Triple G is still a top 5 pound for pound guy for me. He's still that good, and again, I told you guys this last week. Triple G is going to get pushed backing from the zone because he's going into his 4th fight of his 6-fight contract. They want to return on all the money they put into he's making over 16 million a fight. So I think they're going to push hard for him to take a big fight. If Jaime Munguia is realistic, why not? Or if he can make a lot of money moving up to 168 to chase Canelo, and he makes it a public notice, like, hey, I'm on Canelo's ass, I'm moving up to his weight. And Eddie Reynoso, Canelo's guy, said Triple G is one of our options for September. If he wants it, though, he's got to move up to 168. So Triple G, he's been told what he needs to do if he wants to get that 3rd fight. And he needs to go do it. But the first half of the year, I think Ryota Murata or Jaime Munguia are the 2 best options for him, to be honest. He can unify belts against one, or he could take on an undefeated rising star in Munguia, who's all action and be entertaining. So I think he should go after one of those fights. But that's if he cannot make a Charlo fight. If he really wants to prove he's number one, go fight Charlo, make the fight. But the politics are going to ruin that fight from happening. They really are. But I think both guys, if they could work it out, I think both guys are down. I think Charlo's down. I think Triple G's down. But it's not up to them. Sadly, it's not up to them, Ray. It's up to the politics and the governing bodies.
Who do you guys have winning that fight?
Ooh, I think Triple G's too good for him. I think Triple G's just overall too good. His skill set, Triple G's skill set is just, he's not just a power puncher. That guy breaks people down. He boxes. Charlo, I think Charlo's good to very good. I don't think Charlo's great.
Okay.
So, but hey, that would be the test right there, the truest test of Charlo's career, to see how good am I really. And I'll tell you this: Triple G gets in a ring with him and Charlo beats him, then Canelo is right there. Okay. He gets the fight with Canelo, no doubt, in my opinion. So,
what about you, Vaughn? Who do you have winning that?
Right now, I don't know. I'm not going to even lie. I do not know.
I don't know either, seriously. Man.
I don't with that one, because it's like, I understand where True is coming from. You know what I'm saying? I do. Yeah. But then I also know, like, Jamal with his physicality and the way he get down, but I don't know right now, fellas. I can't tell you. My
bad. Jamal is definitely at that phase where he's hungry and he wants to prove himself. He really does, and I commend that, man. Because I said, the way he beat Derevyanchenko really without any problems, I was surprised by that. I was impressed. I was like, whoa, maybe he's ready now to step up to Triple G Canelo area. So we'll see.
And he need a fight like that, though, man. He needs
absolutely. He does. Yeah, he does. Okay. And it just sucks. It sucks that politics, that we're not realistically talking about the number 1 and 2 fighters, Ray, fighting because of politics. That's what sucks.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because what we got working behind the scenes is me, True, and Vaughn. We're trying to put together something to and Vaughn, I actually got a few questions later on down the line, but we're trying to put a format together to I'm trying to make a video on the politics of boxing, because it's not known to the average man. You know what I mean? It's really not, like a guy like me be like, well, they're number 1, number 2. Why don't they fight? And it's just so many different elements and important elements to prevent guys from fighting. And it helps with the hype, but at the same time, I feel like it hurts boxing and stuff. But I'm trying to figure out a format to get it put out there. I mean, True, what do you have to say about like a quick synopsis of politics in boxing? You have anything small, quick to say?
It's too convoluted. It's too confusing to try to explain. I mean, because you have the governing bodies, you have the promotions,
the networks,
the networks. Yeah, I mean, all 3 of those working against each other. And in reality, is I think if any of them look long term, you're going to make more money by letting these guys fight now, and especially a fight like this. Like, we can argue all day about what we were talking about at the beginning of the show, which was Ryan Garcia, Lopez, Haney, and what's his name? Who's the other guy? That other guy before Tank Davis.
Yeah,
we could argue them all day, but we know they're young, and we know eventually they're probably going to have to fight because they're young and they have big names now. You know, so, and we're probably okay with seeing them take on other guys and dominate. But right now is the perfect time for a guy like Triple G and Charlo to fight. Triple G is still trying to prove he's the man at 38. Charlo's in his prime at 30, and he just coming off his biggest win. And Charlo could make the argument like, hey, I whipped Derevyanchenko's ass and you didn't. So you need to come see me.
Right.
You know,
right.
Charlo can make that argument right now.
Right.
You know, and Triple G, you know, I think Triple G be down for the fight, but Triple G doesn't mention Charlo for the same reason Canelo doesn't mention him. It's not because they're afraid. It's because there's so many politics and so many hurdles you got to jump through to try to make that fight, and it just sucks, man. Because right now, Charlo last year he was still in question. Now I was splitting hairs on whether I was giving it to Charlo for number one or Triple G. To me, it wasn't just unanimous in favor of Triple G for number one. And if it's that close, these guys need a fight.
Right.
Plain and simple. Right. To prove who's number one, you know? And right now it doesn't look likely. And that sucks, man. I hate that shit. I really do. So
but I'm trying to put something together, man, like I said, video wise. And I'm gonna talk to these two panel members to figure out the best format to get the average guy to figure it out and understand everything that goes on behind the scenes and stuff that's right in front of your face that you just didn't know was an issue. You know what I mean? So we had a good podcast, a little shorter today. So it went smooth. It went well. I appreciate these guys coming in. If you guys have any questions on where to find them at, it shows on the video. It has both their YouTubes on there. Anything you guys want to say before you head out?
Nah, man. You know, we got a good end of the month coming up. Not going to be too much going on for the next few weeks, but we'll knock out some more boxing awards and top tens. You know, we'll really get in depth with those and spread it out, maybe 2 episodes a week instead of 1 until we get really back into the full swing of a schedule going on. But not a lot of big fights going on until the 23rd, and that's Angela Leo and Stephen Fulton Jr. That's going to be a good one right there.
Okay. Vaughn, you got anything you want to say before we take off?
That's like True said, we don't really got a lot of fights coming up. Like True said, the next one is Fulton and Leo, so we'll just be doing other little things. And man, just that's it, fellas.
I appreciate you guys coming by on Standing 8 Count podcast. Thanks, guys.
All right,
guys.
Peace.
All right,
have a